Hi, this is John Merna with the Merna Law Group, and I want to welcome you to tonight's live streaming event, Bankruptcy and Credit and Recovery. We call this segment the perfect blend because it's one of the biggest concerns people have before they enter the office. What's going to happen to my credit? How does bankruptcy affect my credit? How am I ever going to recover my credit? Every week I answer the same questions, and I have basically the same conversation with a multitude of people that are concerned about their credit. They have excellent credit, they don't want to ruin their credit, yet at the same time they're stressed and they can't afford the debt they have. So the conversation goes something like this. Mr. and Mrs. Client come in and they say, I have about $30,000 credit card debt. Could be less, could be more. They're paying maybe $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 a month of minimum payments, which they've been sustaining for some time, and they pay their credit card debt first and foremost out of their income. So the credit cards get paid first. However, by the end of the month, they're paying for groceries, but a lot of the necessities off of the credit cards, and it's just a cycle. Basically, the cycle of robbing Peter to pay Paul. But they're still concerned about their credit. They don't want to stop. They want to keep their credit score as good as possible. And so I ask them a few questions. The first question I ask them is, number one, how much credit do you have left? How much credit can you use? Most of the time, by the time they come to see me, they're maxed out. They have no more credit left on their credit cards. They're sustaining the full load, yet they have nothing else they can take. Number two, I ask them how much they're paying. And like I said a minute ago, paying sometimes in the order of $700, $800, $900 a month just to sustain the credit card debt. So it's really draining on them, and like I also said earlier, they generally have nothing left at the end of the month to do anything. But they're still concerned about the credit. There's 2 points I make to them. The first point, very important point, is that they really don't have credit. I don't care what the score is that they have on their credit report, they have no more credit. Their credit is gone. They can't borrow a single penny more in order to enhance their life or do whatever they want, number one. So there's no credit there, regardless of the score. And the second is that basically, without that credit score, it's costing, even with that credit score, it's costing them a lot of money per month to keep the credit score. It may shock you, but sometimes $1,000 a month is a minimum payment. That means in 1 year they're paying $12,000 just to sustain that illusion of credit. So the cost of credit, or the appearance of credit and the cost of it, is just too high on them. It takes a little time for it to sink into the psyche, because I know people are concerned. They feel obligated to pay their credit and they want to pay their credit, but regardless of that, they can't pay their credit. And so jumping into the abyss of bankruptcy and the effect it has on credit is a necessity for many of them. There's a couple of things that you can do before you file bankruptcy in order to improve your ability to recover quickly. And so if you've got a pencil and paper, let's take these down. There's 3 things that I tell people to do. The first thing is you got to pick a good attorney. It seems to go out saying, I'd love you to pick the Merna Law Group. However, if you don't, I'll understand. But you need to get a good attorney, because the bottom line is how well that attorney lists your creditors in your bankruptcy is going to go a long way to you being able to rebuild your credit. And that seems kind of strange, but the first thing is you need to list every single entity that touched the credit, meaning you'll have the original creditor, you'll have the collection agency, you'll have the attorney maybe it was turned over to, and you'll also possibly have the court. So you need to you make sure you list all of the creditors in the bankruptcy. Pulling the credit report to do that, providing your attorney with as many of the bills as possible that have come in over time is going to go a long way to helping you basically get a good list out there and get everybody notified. The second thing that feels very important in order to establish that credit recovery that you want to put you on that path to recover as fast as possible is to establish a baseline. And by a baseline, what I mean is you need to pull your credit score. That would be your FICO or your Beacon score. You can pull it off of any of the big credit bureaus, or you can go to websites such as creditkarma.com. But you need to get your pre-bankruptcy credit score to see where you're at to begin with. It's very important because it'll be motivational. You'll see how far you've come. You'll be able to understand a little about the process, and you'll also be able to pat yourself on the back once you're down the road a little ways to recovering the credit and seeing how far you've come. The most important thing you got to understand is that most people have bad credit to begin with. It's not that the bankruptcy causes you to have bad credit. It's that you have bad credit because you'll stop paying either by the time you came and saw the attorney or by the time that the attorney tells you to stop paying on the credit card debt in preparation for filing. So your credit score more than likely is going to already have had the effect on it. The second big thing about the interaction of credit is you need to understand how a bankruptcy affects the credit score. First thing is that a bankruptcy will go on the public records section of a credit report. I wish I had the ability here to show you a credit report, but it's broken down into several sections. One is the reporting section for each account that you have. Another section is the good standing section, shows what's paying. There's also the collection section showing what's not being paid. And the public records section basically lists the lawsuits, liens, such as tax liens, and in our case, the bankruptcy. Now, while it's reported there, the net effect on your credit report comes down to a score or a point amount. And in the case of a bankruptcy, that point amount is anywhere from 50 to 100, meaning that when you file bankruptcy, your score will drop anywhere from 50 to 100 points. If you're at an 800, which is the highest you can be on the FICO score, you're going to get hit by 100 points. That's what they basically tell us. If you're at the end of the range or the lower part where you're at a 500 range, which is considered bad credit, it's only going to take a 50-point hit. So the bottom line is that it's not a situation like most people think where your credit score is going to go to zero and you're making a long climb up to the top. It's going to go anywhere from 100 to 50 points down. Just so you understand the breakdown of the credit score, 800 is the maximum score you can have, 7 to 800 is considered good, 6 to 700 is considered fair, 5 to 600 not so good, anything below a 500 pretty much awful. And so that's the range. And like I said, I seldom see anybody come in with a score below 400. Most of them are in the range of 5 to 6 or up to 8, depending on how soon they come in before they start having to fall behind or they start missing payments. The effect, the notation of the bankruptcy, besides the credit report section, also will go on to the account. So, for instance, if you have your credit card account, it will note, once you file, that that account is in bankruptcy. And after it's been discharged, it will note that it's been discharged. So you'll have the two notations going on, one under each account. The other one is in the public records section. The third thing is that a bankruptcy remains on your credit report for 10 years in a Chapter 7's case. In a Chapter 13, the credit bureaus have said they will take it off after 7. But here's the important point. It's not about how long it's on your credit report. Your ability to recover is not based on the 7 to 10 year range. Your ability to recover is based on how quickly you get your score back to the point where you can get lending again. Most creditors, whether it's a car loan or mortgage loan, are willing to lend to you within a couple of years after bankruptcy. I'm going to go into more detail about the range and the different type of creditor and what they require. But the bottom line is it's not a 7 to 10 year problem. It's basically a couple of years, and that's why we have this program, because we want to get you through that cycle of recovery in the first year or two after the bankruptcy, so you don't have a long extended period of credit impoverishment, let's say. So first thing you want to do is during any reaffirmations that you have, you want to get them executed within about 60 days. And what a reaffirmation is that if you're keeping a vehicle or a secured loan, such as maybe some furniture loans, you want to basically make sure that you get the contract which reaffirms that debt executed. And the reason you want to do that is because that contract, if you're keeping the vehicle, so let's, as an example, will help you rebuild your credit. It'll start reporting again, and that's one vehicle to help your credit score start to recover. So that's a good place to start if you're talking about recovering during a bankruptcy. The second thing is you want to take a baseline. You want to basically look at your credit report again, not for the score so much as to make sure that everybody that you owe has been listed. Because if you've missed anybody at this point, the bottom line is you don't have a lot of time to fix it. You basically want to get them added by the time the bankruptcy is over, and that will help ensure that you're starting from ground zero with no negative reporting and you're rebuilding your credit as quickly as possible. The third thing you want to do during the bankruptcy is you want to take that time to educate yourself. We are transferring some of our videos onto our website, so our library of credit recovery videos will be there in the near future for you to kind of help yourself, educate yourself, but preparing yourself for that full-on recovery phase, which basically starts right after the discharge, which is when the bankruptcy is completed and the debt is wiped out. It's an important time during that 90 days of a Chapter 7 that you educate yourself to have a better understanding of what you need to do in the ensuing 12 months after the bankruptcy in order to improve yourself. So I'm pretty confident that, if you take the time during those 60 days to 90 days of the Chapter 7, you're going to be fully primed and ready to go, and you're going to be looking at probably recovering your score within a 12-month period. All right, so let's talk about some of the things that you can do to recover your score after you file. Let's do 3 things. We'll talk about 3 things. First thing is, as soon as the discharge comes through, once your bankruptcy is over, you want to do, said it twice already, but you're going to do it again. You're going to take another baseline. And the reason you're going to take a baseline is because after the discharge, you get a bit of a bounce in your score. And I feel that if you see that bounce, it's going to give you a little bit of encouragement as you start going through the process. You're basically going to realize, look, it's working. I mean, what he said is happening. The score is actually going up to some degree. It may not be a huge bounce, but it'd be a bounce that's enough to give you the confidence that you can push forward and get that score going again. The second thing you need to know about the post-bankruptcy recovery is you need to understand some of the vehicles that you'll need to get the score going. And unfortunately, the downside of that is that those vehicles are taking out more credit. It takes credit to get credit scores. So you have to be very sparing with how you do it. I mean, look at taking out any credit for the next 12 months or so as basically an educational act, and basically only for the purpose of recovering your credit, because you're only going to have access to credit which is at a very high interest rate. That is part of the problem that that you have with post-bankruptcy. Some of those credit vehicles are furniture loans. Those are usually fairly easy to get after the time you file. Now, the problem with furniture loans there's a couple of issues with furniture loans. Number one, the interest rate that local furniture lending companies charge is fairly high. Sometimes it's as high as the law allows. It's in the 20 to 25% range. It's a very expensive way to get credit, but you are only really looking not for a furniture loan, not for a lot of credit. What you're looking for is a vehicle to start the reporting back on your credit report. Take out a small furniture loan. Some of the ways to get around the high interest rates that they charge is save up a small deposit or part of the cost so that you can put it down. You're not having to therefore pay the full thing on credit, because the way that the furniture loans are calculated, you're paying you're almost paying twice as much as those furniture loans cost. The second thing is that you are basically going to get a secured credit card. Secured credit cards are available all over the internet. You can get them on creditcard.com. You're looking for a couple of things, such as you're looking to make sure that the APR on that credit card is good, that once you've completed a certain period of time, generally a 12-month repayment period of putting your own money down, which will be anywhere from $300 to $500, that they will convert that card into an unsecured card. So that's a second way of possibly getting reporting going. The third thing is that there's a lot of people that basically are looking for vehicle loans after bankruptcy. Those are abundant and everywhere. Vehicle lenders are very willing to lend you after bankruptcy because they charge an extremely high interest rate, and you don't have a lot of options. A couple of things real quick. basically, I need you to negotiate. Negotiate with them. Don't feel trapped by the fact that you filed bankruptcy, and basically get a good, argue for a good rate. And if you have to walk, walk. Don't fall in love with any of the vehicles. Basically, do your best to get negotiating a loan and shop around.